And we are live. And I kind of like that effect. It's like live. Okay, guys, welcome to the show. Welcome to this wild Saturday night, January 3rd, 2026, the Howler Mouse channel. First live show of 2026, which blows my mind that we're here. We made it. We made it, guys. We made it. It happened. And I got to tell you, man, I've had an excellent day. So I cannot complain about a thing. Um, Basically, what I have here to kind of start out is several things I'll kind of want to talk about and go over. And we're going to kind of move tonight. Um, See if we can do all this in about an hour. But I shot an actual video. I shot an actual video. It's going to be published a little bit later tonight, and it's the haul video. Okay, and it's shorter than this. I still talk throughout. Getting back to doing videos, and I've done live shows for so long, it has actually it felt a little awkward. Um, what I used to do in the videos when we had the OGs, the original community here and stuff, I wasn't really talking to a big audience. As always, I was talking to Constant Bromstar. I was talking to Captain Strange Life. I was talking to Marks, our English Marks, Ghost Critic, and all of them and stuff. Way back in the day, that's what it felt like, right? So anyway, yeah, bear with me. I'll get back into the routine of shooting videos, getting that rhythm, getting it to cook again, and things like that. And if you have any topics or anything, throw them out there and stuff, right? So definitely do that. So let me take this opportunity now before we get rolling with this and look at a comment or two here and stuff. To make sure you're subscribed, hit that bell, so when we do this, there will be more videos, and sporadically there will be videos. One will be tonight, so you'll know when we're doing these things. Give it a thumbs up, share it. There's already people here in the room with us and in the chat, so make sure you do that. And what do we have here? Prime One Collector, Hellboy, Batman, Starman is the best. Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing that up because we are going to talk about some Hellboy team ups real quick and rank them. And I might make a proper video of that. This is kind of a dry run. So if anybody's even interested in that, I swear if it's not keys or, comic book news, if you will, about how horrible things are with Marvel and everything like that, or whatever, and creators, which there's room for, there's space for, but that should be there. But anyway, but when it comes to actually talking about your comics, what you're reading, it seems like it's not that's not quite what people are looking for nowadays. And I'm so glad we're able to find people who do read their comics and are interested in these things and have a little bit of fun with it and stuff, right? Paolo is here. Great to see you. Great to see you, Prime One the Collector. Paolo, we got to do a show together. We got to get you on. We got to get Gorvidal on as well. We have Afro Sci-Fi's here. Greetings, Howler Mouse. Happy New Year. I can only stay for half an hour. It's 11 p.m. where he's at now. Have to be up early tomorrow. I hear you. I fell asleep at 2 last night, and I was up by 7. So yeah, I feel you. I feel what's going on here and stuff, right? So hang in there, guys. We are going to do the Hellboy stuff here as we move along. Okay, Paolo, I'm finally rereading Invisible, so we may have something to talk about. That's wild because I picked up Paolo on Grant Morrison's Invisibles where I left off to do a read through. I might have to. I remember bits and pieces and things like that, and as I read, it kind of comes back to me. But I'm back in that little weird spot where it's a bit of a chore to read and once we get over that hump, everything's good. So definitely, yeah, I'll be down for a little Grant Morrison Invisibles talk, little conspiracy. And the book is so much more left than I remember. I mean, it really is. I'm center leaning to the left, but over the last 10 years, what's center left it shifted underneath you like a continental divide. So I don't know where I'm at anymore. But anyway, there's a lot of things in there that I didn't quite remember. But anyway, I don't want to get off track here, right? So, guys, I want to go ahead and show the haul that I have here. Then we will talk about Hellboy. Then I'll kind of show you a few things I'm reading, and we will move around, right? So, The Wonderful Wife, I hope everybody had a fantastic Christmas, right? And I got to tell you, I can't believe we made it to the end of 2025, going into 2026. It's not like we had a choice, but I'm just saying it seems like there actually was a sense of closure with 2025. I don't know if it was certain things, certain movies came out. I don't know, but we're living in a time now to where the closure part of it was Stranger Things, 9 years in the making. Season 5 was absolutely horrible. I did a live show where I reacted to it before the series finale came out. And I went ahead and privatized it because I did not know there was so much on the surface with that season 5 show just pissing me off, right? And then we had the series finale. And at the point of me watching the series finale, along with a lot of other people that I talked to at work, I finally found out some people actually do watch this. They were of the same mind as I. I've lasted this long. Let's just go ahead and finish it. And I got to tell you, I give it a big B, the letter B plus plus plus. I thought it was a very satisfying ending. You turn off your brain a little bit and just enjoy. There was this. It was very satisfying to see that ending. It actually felt like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign in parts, and then there was like a lot of emotional stuff there. And the epilogue that I think was its own little mini movie in it and stuff, right? So they gave a sense of closure. Then we're going into 2026 here, and some amazing things are happening. Went to Books a Million, and lo and behold, as I was looking for some compact comics, trying to decide, trying to be sparse on what I buy because I'm trying to do a purge, I looked over and they had the Absolute Batman, something something zoo. Long story short, volume 1 of the trades of it. And I flipped through it and I was just a little bit impressed with what I saw. These Absolute DC books, a lot of buzz about them, and they have lasted longer than what I thought. And as I flipped through there, I saw a lot of Frank Miller in there, a lot of Frank Miller's Batman in there. I did not read the book. I flipped through it, saw a lot of things that remind me a lot of Dark Knight Returns in certain scenes and stuff with what I saw. And amazingly enough, coincidentally, he doesn't like me to use his real name, and I can't remember his YouTube name. But I had a friend message me a few days later and said, these Absolute Batman books, there's a lot of Frank Miller in them. That's great. He came to the same conclusion I did. Then I had 2 more people message me. I don't know what's going on. But so the Absolute books, apparently these are responsible, and you guys are probably saying this is old news, are outselling Marvel, which I've been wondering how in the world anybody has not been outselling Marvel for years. So this is great that there's a buzz, there's some excitement, and I may end up checking out those trades and things, right? I mean, I've known about the Absolute Batman for years, for a year and a half or something like that. I don't know. So yeah, I haven't. I mean, I'm not completely oblivious to it, but I really thought this was going to kind of come and go. And it's just amazing to me that the Absolute books seem to be outshining DC's mainstream books. My prediction, as I've said, is that now that all these copyrights and trademarks and things are going to be up in the air and dissolving and things like that, going into the 2030s and things like that, that we're going to see a lot of weird stuff going on with a lot of these characters, a lot of weird takes and stuff. Just so happens, it seems like Absolute Batman is obviously, a home run. I've even heard it's the least interesting book. I saw where Absolute Superman made people mad. Absolute Wonder Woman, I tried to flip through that, didn't see anything. I'm very curious about Absolute Martian Manhunter. So there's to be things going on there, right? Now, my wife, moving on here, my wife, I got to tell you, man, as long as I kind of steer her along the way, she can nail a Christmas gift, a birthday gift, right? And then any other time, she knows me so well. She just amazes me throughout the year. I'm one of those guys can brag about his wife, right? And everything's like that. But then every now and then, I feel like she overdoes it for a Christmas gift or something. I feel like one of these still would have been too much. I'm glad she did them. I know where she bought these from, so so I'm sure they were not full price, is what I'm trying to get at, right? But I just kind of steered her. She knows me, and there's 2 gifts she got me here, right? The first one is the Fantastic Four Epic Collection, Volume 1. This covers Fantastic Four 1 through 18, 61 to 63, 1961 to 63. And as I've said many times over the years, 16 years ago now, coming crawling up on 16 years. It's actually going to be 16 years in March, if I do believe. But I had the two long boxes of books stolen off a U-Haul when I was packing to leave Roanoke, Virginia, to move out west a little bit on the western part of Virginia. Not West Virginia, the western part of Virginia. And one of the things that got was my Jack Kirby Silver Age stuff and my Hulk stuff. A lot of great stuff, right? So anyway, I believe it's the five or six volumes of the Epic Collection to tell the entire Stan Lee Jack Kirby run of the world's greatest comic magazine, Fantastic Four from the 60s. To me, this is as big a staple as the 60s as the Beatles. Okay, I just it's just how it is. I think it is what it is, right? Spider-Man may be the figurehead or was the figurehead. Who knows what's going on with them now? The figurehead of Marvel, but I always thought Ben Grimm, the Thing, was the epitome of what a Marvel character is. You know what I mean? Feet of lead, a little bit cursed. It's those. It was not quite the world outside your window like they said, but you knew the places. You know what I mean? It was still kind of grounded in the real world as much as they could for a comic book, despite the fantastic things going on. And the evolution of Jack Kirby's art throughout this series is just amazing. I love the Doe era, and that's a lot of this stuff, right? Um, maybe crack them open and stuff. But when I say Doe era, the thick lines and the composition of the panels and stuff gives it to me what I call a fat doughy look. I mean, I love that era. Thing isn't quite all rocky yet, thing as you can see. But yeah, so volume one through, oh gosh, I want to say it's five volumes. I have them up here on the shelf behind me if I wanted to look. But now I just need, I think it's volume six. I need volume six to have them all. And I looked it up, and the last volume of whatever it is, volume five, four, five, six of the Epic collections. I think the Epic collections and the compact comics from DC are the best formats I've seen in a while. I absolutely love those formats. But anyway, I looked up the last volume and it just blew me away because it was well over $100, let's say. So obviously it's out of print. I think it came out in 2021, I guess, and they haven't done a second printing, so it's going to be a little while. But I have plenty to read before I get. I say volume. That last volume is probably 85 to 101 and probably has an annual or something, and maybe a giant size. I don't know, giant size special or something. I'm sure there's other things in it. So anyway, my wife just nailed it with this. I know there's lots of things here and a lot of things to be excited about, a lot of new stuff, but there's just something about going back to the start of a time where you know what you're going to expect, and the fact that they consistently built that world of the Fantastic Four that broke a lot of rules. No masks, if you will, no secret identities. Actually had letters from people that they would put in the books that the Fantastic Four read. Joked around about having Marvel Comics. I think that's when that started. They joked around about meetings with Marvel so they could make comic books of their actual adventures and things like that. A lot of things, I mean, Challengers of the Unknown, Jack Kirby. There's so many things there that built up to this and everything like that, right? That was one gift that I thought was fantastic. Hey, John is here. John has made it in. Good. Hello, John. With John here, that is always my cue to say, thumb up the video, please. And then make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell. John, that's all those, so yeah. So anyway, the second thing she got me was there's several formats of this, right? I have them behind me. I have some over there. But she managed to get the From Hell, the Master Edition. I think it's been about this will make 3 years since I went to Heroes Con in Charlotte. And I'll go ahead and just put it out there, right? So I don't know if I'm going to go down there again. I don't know. We'll see. I would love to keep going and go, right? But there's a dealer who has a table. And what these dealers have done is they'll buy complete collections. And as the collections come through, they will take the soft cover trades and the hardcover trades, and they'll make the soft cover trades $5. They'll make the hardcover $10. But there was one table where it's like they were brand new. I don't know what the deal was, but they had been there for several years. And I went in there and I would. They're the ones that gave me the DC comic suspense story trades for $5, two for $5 instead of two for $10. You know, things like that. They make great deals. But that was also the year where I saw one copy of this From Hell book, right? And it was standing there as a hardback. Now, the reason that this is so cool is that I think they had to do something to raise a little bit of money to get it. I'm not sure to get it done because what they did is they collected the entire From Hell series and they colorized it. Right, Eddie Campbell's inks um, are just fantastic. It's well enough a black and white story. They still give shades of tones of gray and septone and things like that as needed. Nothing is really destroyed or covered up. But From Hell, I joke around about this with From Hell. From Hell and The Crow are books where there's a trifecta, guys. You'll see this in the video that uploads. I think I said it there. But I kind of joke around there's a trifecta, right? You can have two of the three, but you do not need to have three of the three because it will just harm you. Okay. So basically, when you're reading these, especially with The Crow, it can be raining and you can have the Crow book, and that's fine, right? It could be raining, and for whatever reason, God forbid, I don't know why you want to do it. You want to listen to country music, do that. But do not have country music rain in The Crow out. From Hell's a little bit of the same, right? This is a fantastic book. It does not have the annotations of this series. Hold on. I have the right here. I'm betting I've probably had this coming up on 20 years, but this is the trade paperback where it's still black and white, but it has all of Alan Moore's annotations and his citations and stuff. He actually studied for years on Jack the Ripper and basically who he thought it was. At least that's how it was. And this came out for years sporadically, 11 issues through Kitchen Sink Press. I think it's just fantastic. Now, when I read it, it was so dark, and chapter two kind of hurt. Chapter two was a lot of exposition of Jack the Ripper with his driver driving around London and giving you these tour. It was like a tour guide giving you ultimate details on all the buildings that are set up around London, how they came from Egypt and how this came from Greece and the rocks that it's made out of and how they did this and things. And then all of a sudden there's a map of London looking down on it and they make a pentagram and it gets into the Masons and stuff like that. It was a good payoff, but it was very painful to read. The rest of it, gold. The rest of it is gold. That's the one that got me. So I don't know if I want to keep this. I wonder when I bought this. I feel like I got this in 2007. Oh, I'll probably compare them. 89, 99, 2000, 2001, 2004, 2006, like I thought, right? So apparently this started From Hell started in 89, 101 years after Jack the Ripper. And looks like it was completed by 2004. Is that right? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, this is great for the source material and the annotations. This is great for a solid retelling of the story in color. So I'm very excited about that. Craig, what do we have here? Here we go, Afro Sci-Fi. What do you think of the current Marvel Masterworks paperworks in the smaller format? I think if we're talking about the same thing, I saw those at Books A Million, checked them out. I think they're $15 a piece. I think it's. I've always said there's a lot of things that happen that with Marvel where they will get things published first, even though they may not have come up with the idea first. Crisis on Infinite Earths, they began work on it in 1980. Jim Shooter got the toy deal. Marvel got a toy deal. Jim Shooter did the book. Secret Wars came out, even though Crisis has already been worked on, and it came out in 80. Secret Wars came out first, and I remember my stepdad's reaction. He was a Marvel zombie all the way. Said, and I was DC. Go figure. Everything was never on the same side, man. But even as soon as I showed him how excited I was, I showed him the Crisis on Infinite Earths #1, and he was like ripping off Marvel. I lived with that guy. You know what I mean? So I think it's great to have it in a format, but I feel like if I where I saw the size of it, if I'm thinking of the right books that I saw at Books a Million, and I could be wrong, you know what I mean? But it looked like they were trying to compete with it's Identity Crisis, Identity Disc comics all over again, if you know what that's about, just to kind of confuse the market, flood the market, you know, and all the stuff like that. But it looks to me like it's just a reaction to the DC's Compact Comics. I'm all right. I'm all right with it. I'm fine with it. The Marvel Masterworks, though, the actual people are very upset that they are closing that line of comics because there's several of them where they just needed like maybe one more of these hardbacks and stuff to finish up what they were doing. Yeah, yeah. So okay, Paolo, the first. I hope we're talking on the same page, Afro Sci-Fi. I really do. The first letters were made up. There are letters from Stan G and Saul Brodsky in early Marvel, as well as Joan Bucock, who was Stan Lee's wife. I love the fact that you, off the top of your head, that was right on deck with the letters, and you knew what I was talking about. That is fantastic, man. Willie Lumpkin, the post office, the postmaster, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Prime One Collector from Hell is a book I've always come back to. Absolutely love it. Yeah, I thought I was going to read it one time, read this, and it was so dark in parts. I was like, oh, I'll never revisit that and stuff. And it's like a Jamie Delano Hellblazer comic. You know, it ends up haunting you a little bit, and you have to go back and reread it, right? So very happy to have those, man. Okay. Okay, thanks, man. Yeah, all right. Actually, like them. Yeah, I think any. I love the DC comic format, the manga size, and I didn't think I would. And then when I have it in my hands and I'm reading it, and I see it, and that price, fantastic. Absolutely loved it. I mean, do I really need another copy of Watchmen? I'm like, yes. You know what I mean? All Star Superman, right there. I'm going to have to pull the trigger on New Frontier, Darwin Cook's New Frontier. I've got a library copy and a used copy over here just to have it there. I need to just go ahead and do it because I spent $20 on comics today where I could have got 2 compact comics. Go figure, right? So let's take it. Now, stick with me here, guys. Stick with me here, right? So let me make sure I'm organized here. Let me get a few things out of the way. There's stuff all over this table, guys, right? So here's what I picked up today. I went out. The mother-in-law texted me like, are you close? She had her brothers come over, made this immaculate breakfast, and they left, and there was tons of leftovers. So she called me up, and I brought it up there, and I got breakfast. And then I stopped at a shop around here, right? And I don't usually go in there. And he priced them on the spot, and I was able to get these for $6 less than what he wanted to do. So it ended up being a sweet $20. I just happened to have $20 in my pocket, and I'm like, why not? Why not, right? So let me make sure they're all here because, yeah. So you're going to see these in the new video that's going to be published a little bit later tonight, probably as soon as this one is over, an actual video. And as for you guys that are popping in, I did videos for years regularly. Every Sunday morning they'd be uploaded, and I would do 2, 3 during the week and stuff. Not a big deal. Very awkward getting back in there trying to keep it condensed stuff, right? So this live show is the longer version of these books, right? Now, if you watched my last live show and have heard me talking, maybe even have me on Instagram, maybe I did it. I'm definitely coming back around. I've always enjoyed my Saturday morning cartoons. I've always talked about my love of Sid and Marty Krofft, Hanna-Barbera, Space Ghost, Scooby-Doo, Boomerang channels, everything, Clue Club, right? I grew up on that stuff. Then we get into the 80s, my Thundar. For you guys that have Tubi, Thundar is on there. All the way up to Pirates of Dark Water. I love going to the movies to see things, right? I was totally against computer animation. Yet when I went to watch Toy Story, they got me in 2 minutes because they had a story to go with it, right? I love this stuff, right? There's room for your crows and your serial killers and your Jack the Rippers and stuff. There's also room for your anthropomorphic, damn it, animals and stuff, right? And I can't believe it's been 35 years this year that we're going to see this, right? But Ren and Stimpy. Now, over the last couple months, when I go to these little cons, okay, when I go to these little cons around here, these little cons, I have seen people going a little bit crazy for these Ren and Stimpy comics and Beavis and Butthead comics. I don't know why. You know what I mean? I don't know if they popped. I don't see them if they've jumped. Don't really think about it, right? But I have 3 or 4 of these scattered around. Bob Camp, I have, I think it's issue 5 or something. I have a first issue Ren and Stimpy. I have a first issue Ren and Stimpy still in the bag with supposedly a stinky sticker or scratch and stiff sticker on it or something. Probably a joke. Then I have a Bob Camp with a Space Madness inspired cover and maybe 1 or 2 others around there, right? And I skipped the Spider Man one, right? I could have got the Spider Man one a few weeks ago, and I think that's worth a little scratch. Who knows, right? But growing up loving comics, Mighty Mouse, Ralph Bakshi, John Kricfalusi, during back in the Pee Wee's Playhouse days, they brought back Mighty Mouse, and it was a huge hit, right? Then John Kricfalusi ended up ended up at Nickelodeon, and they were acting like this was a big deal, saying that it was creators doing their own cartoons, if you will. And this really was highly influenced by things like Rocky and Bullwinkle and Tex Avery, and then this gross out things. And then, of course, it gets credited for inventing this psychodrama with Ren mostly, right? With Space Madness and stuff, right? I still watch the cartoons, but it's usually just the first season and half of the second, the John K stuff, right? I still watch those, right? And then oh God, what was it? The Country Music Channel. What was it? Anyway, there was some country channel that rebranded itself as TNN or something, right? And we ended up getting some Ren and Stimpy again, but these were for adults. These were the things they couldn't do at Nickelodeon and stuff like that, right? But anyway, so we ended up getting a few of the comics. Number 2, and I'm enjoyed reading this. Now, I said that I seem to be getting soft as I've gotten older, or something like that, or I'm coming back around to this stuff. But if you've watched my other shows, I ended up picking up Count Duckula. I now have 3 or 4 issues of Count Duckula. You know what I mean? Mighty Mouse, Count Duckula, Banana Man, and if you had Nickelodeon in the States in the 80s, you saw all that stuff. Now, I could not pass up number 8. I am a sucker for the film noir stuff, right? Even if it's a cover like this. And what I like about Ren and Stimpy, and I probably heard this in a documentary now that I'm saying it's out loud, is that they're in the tradition of like the Three Stooges and things like that. Whatever the story calls for, they are. They needed to be a plumber, they're plumbers. So they need to be detectives, they're detectives. They needed to be painters and carpenters, they're painters and carpenters. You know what I mean? So it's whatever the story calls for. So that's why this works. So I think I would actually hang this up with probably a Steve Sakai Usagi cover. You know what I mean? I really dig that one. And then number 39, I'm apparently the later issues seem to be worth a little bit more. Not much. I don't know if it's true or not. It's just from talking to the guy that I bought these off of. This is number 39, and he actually priced it more than the other 2. Yeah, for the deal I made, I pretty much got this for free. But yeah, number 39. I don't remember how long it lasted, but I don't think it made it past 5 years. I don't know, right? So we have those fun anthropomorphic animals there. See, I said it. If I don't think about it, I can say words, guys. Thundar, yes, absolutely. There's a Thundar comic. That's one of the comics I'm excited about. The Thundar comic, I pre-ordered number 1. I don't know when I'll get it. But yeah, I pre-ordered a number 1. I cannot wait to get that. Number 2 comes out next month, and then the third one is scheduled to come out like March 4th, 2026. So I got to work on getting the next 2 issues at least. Jason Aaron is writing the Thundar comic, one of the things I'm very excited about. And then we have Bob Camp did Conan. I had him sign, sketch my issues. Oh, that's fantastic. The coolest thing that I have, I think, I have the Jim Lee cover. I have the McFarlane cover of the Conan the Barbarian books from Marvel back in the day. But for me, what's kind of cool for me is that I have an Eric Powell, the guy that did the Goon. He did an issue like 25 of the Dark Horse book, I think. Did he just do a cover? Or did he do an actual story? We're going way back. It feels like that was just the other day, and I'm realizing that was probably 20 years ago. So that's very cool. Bob Camp did Conan. That blows my mind. I'm definitely looking that up when we're done here, right? So then I'm going to show you an anthropomorphic animal that actually ran for president, and he got votes. He was a write-in vote, guys. back in the 70s and stuff. Steve Gerber doing his parody. Even got Disney's attention. The first Marvel movie, guys, the first Marvel movie, Howard the Duck, number 26. I'm getting very close to having all the Steve Gerber issues and stuff, right? Very close to the end. And of course, we all know that Steve Gerber came up with Destroyer Duck to raise money with he and Jack Kirby to to get money to help sue to get the rights back to Howard the Duck, whatever was going on with that. And then there's those famous issues where we had a Marvel team up. Spider-Man, was it Spider-Man and Gambit? And I felt like there was someone else. But at the same time, we had a Destroyer Duck and a Savage Dragon crossover. Steve Gerber wrote both. And if you get those books, that's an unofficial crossover because what basically happens in those books is Steve Gerber writes it to where he steals Howard the Duck back, and he dyes his feathers black to be a mallard, I guess, or whatever, or however it works. But the Howard the Duck that Marvel has is an imposter, and Steve Gerber got Howard out of the Marvel universe and changed his name and dyed his feathers. I think it's pretty funny. So anyway, yeah, Steve Gerber. Okay, folks, it's happy time. I wonder if that should have been the thumbnail for this show. There's times I feel like that. But yeah, I enjoy those. I really need to sit down and purge them. The one I've read the most that was in the house forever that the stepdad bought was issue number 2, where he fights the Space Turnip Dude. Yes, Space Turnip Dude. Okay. A lot of great satire there with credit cards and towers built out of credit cards and debt and things like that. And it says something. It said something, right? Now, this was fun to find. I never found these in the wild. I didn't really need to get this. I have the trade signed by one of the artists, but I decided to just go ahead and get it with this little haul because I ran across it. It's one of those things, if I went down the road, I was like, oh, I wish I'd bought that. I can feel it. I can feel it. I'd do that. And that's my test to let me know, do I just go ahead and get it? It's an impulse buy. But this is number 3 out of 3. Mark Millar's fantastic Superman Red Sun. If he had left Krypton just a little bit later, the rotation of the Earth would have been off to where he would not have landed in Kansas, but he landed smack dab in the farmlands of Russia, and Superman grows up a communist, if you will, right? If I remember correctly, Mark Millar's father was a socialist and stuff, right? So he definitely has the reference material, if you will, to write a what if story of what if this happened. What I liked about issue 3, yes, a lot of people would be like, I need to get issue 1. I get that. But for me, issue 3, if I remember right, in my trade it's been a while since I read, Mark Millar did some actual freaking brilliant writing to where we have Superman taking care of Kandor, the shrunk city, bottled the bottled city of Kandor, where Brainiac shrunk down an entire city on Krypton and took it with him, and Superman has to now take care of them in the Fortress of Solitude and stuff, right? So he finds a way to make them big. That's not what happened to him. I think he found a planet where they were proportionally normal on that planet. Anyway. But anyway, he takes what Superman does with Kandor and he makes it an analogy for what communism is that kind of snaps Superman out of it. Like, oh my God, great stuff. Great stuff. That giving it that literary technique, adding that to the story to give it a little subtext and depth. Fantastic. That's when I was on board. Before that, it was just another Elseworld story, right? So yeah, I found number 3, which is actually the chapter that is my favorite that I like to read. So I found that fantastic, right? Now, I've said this before, many times before. I absolutely love that I got to grow up in the 80s and experiencing things like the coming of Alan Moore on Swamp Thing, Crisis on Infinite Earth, Legends, Invasion, Morlock Massacre, Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns, Batman Year One, Daredevil Reborn, Sword of the Atom. I can go on and on, just looking around my walls. The New Universe, okay, Epic Magazine, things like that. I grew up in a great time, but my favorite reads when I sit down and read comics, some of my favorite stuff is from the Bronze Age. Commandy. Anything from DC that's not a superhero book, and then a lot of stuff from Marvel. That, well, actually, as long as it wasn't a team book, it seems a lot of great stuff out there. It's not what I'm saying, right? But anyway, what's great about being able to go through the back issues is to be able to discover a new series and to be able to get the entire series because it's not in a lot of demand. You know what I mean? It's not keys, it's not in demand. But even though Killraven has its fan base, I was able to get two more issues of Amazing Adventures featuring War of the Worlds, based on concepts by H.G. Wells, and we get Killraven. And considering that I'm Howler Mouse, it's kind of funny that he's getting attacked by mutant rodents that are that are. Let me check this out. Okay, they they are controlled by Ratak. There it is. Yeah, the bad guy in this one is Ratak. Yeah, he's controlling and telling the rodents to go after Killraven. Now, later on, P. Craig Russell comes on this book, and that just elevates the book with his beautiful art. Where I even had the graphic novel that he did. I beat up stained graphic novel, probably water stained or something, man. But his artwork is just fantastic on this. And we also have number 21. Now, Killraven seems to always kind of pop up. I think the first place I actually can, I'm sure there was a book or two in the house, but I actually remember seeing him in official handbook in the Marvel Universe or something. Um, and he popped up in Universe X by Alex Ross, Jim Kruger. The guy that does Dawn, Joseph Michael Linzer, he did a one shot. I feel like Alan Davis did something with him. So he's always popped up. He's always had a fan following, at least. I mean, you had him. I would love to see a Killraven Deathlock crossover in one of their dystopian worlds, if you will. I think that would be very cool. Very cool. So where are we at? Is that everything? That is everything. Okay, guys. So let me find the books. It's Hellboy time. Now, guys, I am going to be looking for some feedback from you guys because, like I said, I'm getting in the swing of doing videos again. I feel like I'll be able to cook in those like I used to back in the day. I've done live shows for so long. I'm more comfortable doing it live, setting down, setting up, low effort, whatever springs to mind, whatever's in the comments. There's so many benefits to doing it this way that I just enjoy. After this will make my 16th year on YouTube, right? Now it's a point of like, this is what I enjoy to do. But, we got to make those videos and get us out there and have shorter stuff. We all have lives and things to do and stuff, right? So one of the videos that I want to do, I kind of wonder if this is even interesting to anyone. It's very interesting to me. There's going to be a few people it's interesting to out there. And should I do a shorter version of this? A video where I just pop them up, maybe a 10-minute video, right? But we're going to go back to a very popular character, one of my favorites and one of yours. Let me see if these are in order. I kind of have an order in mind. Yeah, that one goes way low. Okay. But anyway, it's Hellboy. Everybody loves the Hellboy. You know what I'm saying? Shoot. Go right here. Yeah. I think they're at least in order, right? So this is sort of a countdown, right? One of the things that I absolutely got a kick out of in the 90s, and I've said it before, in the 90s, I had a good time collecting comics, despite the glut of comics, how many magazines were out, all the Rob Liefeld and Image, people who wanted to draw like Liefeld, people wanted to draw like McFarlane, those Image guys, you know what I'm saying? Image Comics formed, Marvel Comics were what they were. Bone came out, James Robinson's Starman. At the time, I enjoyed Zero Hour. You know what I mean? There was things that were there. We were coming out of the 80s. Things were changing, and the word alternative was applied to music. That carried over from the 80s, but the idea of comics called alternative comics turned into indie comics, and I completely blame image for that, the creator owned thing and everything like that. So we had a lot of creativity coming out. Now, one of the things I really liked were in my memory, the way it felt is you had two characters that felt like they were the Sam Jackson of comics. Sam Jackson has feels like he's been in every movie since '94, even maybe '89, depending how big you want to deep, right? But I can think of Sam Jackson in this, Sam Jackson in that. Very versatile actor, a lot of looks, just fantastic, right? And you had two characters that I felt like were popping up everywhere. A little bit of a third one, but he didn't have the range. You know what I mean? But it was Savage Dragon and Hellboy. Okay, Hellboy was popping up everywhere, right? You had John Byrne doing his Next Men books, and there was a Hellboy poster in the background before he actually had his first comic book appearance in Next Men 21, which I have, right? And then he popped up in all these other places. John Byrne had a Torch of Liberty. He did Danger Unlimited. Hellboy was in that universe, if you will. Torch of Liberty was a book in that Danger Unlimited thing, and there was pictures of Hellboy out there. Hellboy is part of that universe. Hellboy was popping up everywhere. Savage Dragon popped up with everybody. He popped up with Superman. He popped up against Megaton Man. What was the one that cracked? He popped up with the Turtles. My God, martial law. The martial law one's one that cracks me up. I'm like, how did that happen? And things like that. And then you had Madman, right? He pops up in an issue of Madman. And it's kind of wild because I do recommend Madman for you guys, Mike Allred stuff. It's a zippy little cool comic book. I'm going to go ahead and say it. There's parts of it I'm like, if you kind of like the Batman 66 stuff, it'd be kind of cool, right? But Frank Einstein, Madman, it's an alternative comic, but it's called indie by this point. But I've had this way down on the list because number one, it's not in continuity as most of these crossovers are, but also because there's not a lot of action with Hellboy. I think he's doing research, and as Frank Einstein is having his little adventure, or Madman, if you will, he kind of walks by and there's Hellboy being like, "What's up, man? What's up? Yeah, it's cool. It's cool." And that's it. That's the Hellboy thing. Now, Hellboy ended up popping up in, God, what was that? Mark Allred had a #1 series through Atomic Comics, probably another Madman #1 through Atomic Comics or something, probably self-publishing or something. I can't remember off the top of my head. And Hellboy popped up there. So Hellboy's all over the place, right? But yeah, last on my list is this one. And it barely beat out this one, right? Now, guys, we're going way 90s with Event Comics. I know Joe Quesada has his fans. And I think it's fantastic that him, Jimmy Palmiotti, came out with Ash, and then they had another character of Painkiller Jane. Everybody's putting out books back then. It blows my mind how this happened, but Brian Augustine, the great Rick Leonardi, trying to think, Daredevil fame to me. He did those great Daredevil issues with Anacita, 2-part Wolverine story, 248 and 249, something like that. But anyway, Cloak and Dagger, things like that. I've met him. I have some Cloak and Dagger books signed by him, right? It's great to see him come in there. Brian Augustine, a very capable writer and stuff, right? But this one just felt kind of blah. And up until just now, I could have told you the plot, but I think it has something to do with a Native American urn that kind of just somebody unseals stupidly, and Hellboy has to come in, and we have a Hellboy adventure that didn't feel very creepy. You know what I'm saying? Painkiller Jane even had her own TV show, I think. But this is in the midst of the bad girl era of the 90s, where we got things like Lady Rawhide, things like that. But everybody was coming out with that. And I'm kind of wondering if Painkiller Jane may have just got in and swallowed up all of that, right? But I found this one underwhelming, but you may like it. Your mileage is going to vary, right? I'm very picky, with things like that if I'm going to make a list. So there you go, right? Okay, now this next one, action, right? I've already mentioned who the other character is as I'm talking. It cracks me up because these two guys, when you put them together, it looks like Christmas colors. I feel like I could take action figures. Oh, I've got one right there. I could take action figures, hang them up on on my tree, and they would blend right in. But as action, I prefer Eric Larson's original Savage Dragon, the original dragon, not the sun, if you will. But I'm not a hardcore collector of this book, right? I have spurts. I have the first miniseries. I have this. I have him crossing over with Max. I have the God versus Devil issue. And then we jump ahead, and I have the Commandy tribute one. And I'm thinking about doing a Commandy like books and inspired books, right? But this was just fun. Eric Larson sort of, it's kind of like he picks up where the Bronze Age happened, and he grew up with the kids that read those. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, so if you like Savage Dragon, you like Savage Dragon. It reads like an old school book. It's action, action, action. He actually is not. He's actually a decent writer for what this is. So basically, he took his character Brain Ape. I'm going by memory here, guys. Give me a second here. He took Brain Ape, who I don't know if his history in the Savage Dragon universe. You know what I'm saying? But he fought Adolf Hitler. Actually, faked his death at the end of World War II and tangled with Hellboy in the 50s. Somewhere along the line, his brain got put into an ape body, a la Gorilla Grodd beats Simon from the Titans Fearsome Five. And he kind of forgot that he was Hitler until he started seeing Hellboy. And of course, in Mighty Marvel manner, in traditional superhero comics, uh, we have things happen to where we have Hellboy and um, the Savage Dragon going at it. You know what I mean? And I got to tell you, man, Eric Larson did not do a bad Hellboy. I got to tell you, very good. So yeah, this is actually a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I have multiples that I've gotten over the years, right? And that's going to lead to another out of continuity story. My Eric Powell. I love the freaking Goon. I love this book. The EC inspired the humor and the horror. Inspired book actually had a Jack Davis cover. I think Jack Davis it was his last comic book work, doing a cover for the Goon before he passed away. I've met Eric Powell many times. I have tons of stuff signed by him. Absolutely love the Goon. I thought his follow-up book, The Hillbilly, was going to be huge, but he got behind on getting that book out to where just forget about it, right? So this is Goon number 7, and you're going to hear, if you do any kind of research, that for a while that this book was not reprinted anywhere, right? I'm pretty sure I have a Goon trade up here on the shelves. Not only do I have most of the issues, but I keep the trades so I can pull them down and be able to read them that way, right? That's how much I love this book, right? So this takes place from a town that is actually within driving distance without too big of a strain. You know what I'm saying? Lebanon, Tennessee, I think is where this takes place, and it's in the 60s, I think. Oh my goodness, I want to eat this alive. Or he finds a comic book from the 60s. So anyway, the first couple pages of this is by Eric Larson. The framing sequence is by Eric Larson. Yeah, okay, I'm right. Lebanon, Tennessee, 1965. All right, we have all that great stuff in there by Magnolia, right? And this is supposed to be out of continuity, but with Magnolia, when Mike Magnolia draws it, I feel like it is, in my mind. So we have all these great issues, and he finds a comic book in the floor of the Goon from the 30s. And all of a sudden he feels some pain, and there's this sound, and it's probably a pipe wrench, right? And while he's discovering this case, he's getting hit by an octopus with a pipe wrench, and he's in the Goons world. And what I love about Hellboy team ups is that no matter where Hellboy goes, he's able to kind of blend in. He doesn't really ever lose his shit. You know what I mean? And that's going to be show you here in another one. That's why I absolutely loved it, right? But yeah, there's zombies there, and you have the Goon and the Hellboy, the paranormal investigator, and they're still in pork chops, which is a big commodity in Goon world. But they see the Slackjaws, the zombies, and now they have a common enemy, and they go after them, and the fighting happens. You know what I mean? So some great stuff in here, but eventually there's some paranormal stuff. And then he fits into this world because, Mike Mignola ended up basing Hellboy's personality off of his dad, the blue collar worker and stuff, right? So of course he'd be able to sit around at a bar and play some cards and drink some beer, and smoke with the boys. But like I said, there's more things going on. We're not going to ruin everything. And of course, we end up having them fighting. And they end up making up, but eventually the goons had enough of them. They have a common enemy. I love this enemy. These are the communist octopuses, if you will. Communist octopi. God, what were they called? But yeah, this is one of the greatest villains that you ever seen. I don't know, but there's something like the communist mollusks or something like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, check them out. Evil octopi. I go around on balloons. Yeah. So anyway, I love how he ends up coming back into the real world. Frankie ends up taking a knife to the eye to one of them. Don't want to mess with Frankie and his knife. So anyway, the goon kind of gets tired of Hellboy being there, so he hits him with a wrench. He pops back into the real world by Mike Mignola, and he looks around. The comic book disintegrates, and Hellboy goes, "We'll just pretend that didn't happen." Finito. Well, yeah, it did happen. And I think Hellboy ended up sort of hinting and referencing this story in one of the Hellboy stories. Like, there's a story that Hellboy has where it takes place like 67, 68, and it seems like he kind of mentioned something about that. You had to know the story. It's so vague. Hey, Tim Merritt's here. Great to see you. All right, brother, you're here. Now, this one right here, I almost put this one on top. I really did. And I may end up changing my mind, but I absolutely love this one shot. Okay. Hellboy meets the Beast of Burden, right? Now, every now and then, you can bring in some animals, and there's just this sympathy we have for animals where the stakes kill us. The stakes can be lower because you don't even want these animals hurt. If you've ever owned a dog, if you've ever owned a cat and things like that, right? But Evan Dorkin, the dude from Milk and Cheese, and Jill Thompson, who does some beautiful watercolors in this, came up with this book. I have the complete, what was complete at the time when it came out, hardback over here, A Beast of Burden. Right, it's a bunch of nice little dogs and cats and stuff that there's a hill they protect where there's a lot of demons and witches and things like that. They protect from the supernatural, and they end up getting involved with Hellboy, and they can talk. They can talk to him and stuff like that, right? And I absolutely loved this book. I bought this when it came out in 2010 on a whim. I had never heard of Beast of Burden. Time is it? Yeah, we're good here. Yeah, so anyway, this takes place in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Beautiful watercolor artwork in this by Jill. And Hellboy is following a vampire who has run out into the street in front of the Amish and burnt up. And he sees this dog that has him come out into the woods. And we get to know everything. Hellboy is our introduction to this world, right? So when he walks out, the little pug and the dogs are like, "Oh, it's the devil," and they're freaking out, right? Some are ready to attack, some are cowards. They all have their individual personalities and stuff, right? So Hellboy sits in a tree, smokes his cigar. I love these two panels down here at the bottom. Take that in, and basically they tell him everything we need to know. Where we go? He goes, "Are you sure you don't know that dog?" Turns out the dog that took Hellboy there isn't with this pack. And they're like, he goes, "That's right." And they're explaining to Hellboy who they are. "See, we're members of the Wise Dogs Society, sworn to protect and defend Burden Hill from the paranormal." Yeah, just like you, Hellboy. Actually, we're only junior apprentices. And then Hellboy points at the cat. "The cat too?" He's like, "Yeah." He takes his cigar, he thinks about it, and he says, "Okay, got it." And we move on with our story. That's what I love about Hellboy. He's like, "All right, cool." And they go on fighting the supernatural together. All right. I actually said, like I said, I almost put this at number one. I almost put this at number one. I may still put it at number one. So, guys, so what is going to be number one, right? Well, I don't know if I'm going to count this one or not because it is in this trade. I don't have both issues, but there's a Ghost Hellboy story from the 90s because, Dark Horse. Um, but, oh yeah, I meant to say the Badman issue, that was part of the Legends imprint that they came up with. Frank Miller, John Byrne, sort of a reaction to in Mignola, a reaction to Image, to be what Image said they were going to be. John Byrne was not a fan. But anyway, but it's got to be, and I didn't pull. I apologize. All right, I have my Starman short box upstairs. I have found that it is time to bag those again, rebag those. I can't believe that it's been that long, right? But anyway, but as someone has already mentioned, and I guessed, the Batman, Starman, Hellboy two-part story by James Robinson, Mike Mignola inks is fantastic. This is called Mask and Monsters. This trade also has the Ghost issues, right? So in a nutshell, okay, this is so freaking good, right? So it starts out with Hellboy and Batman. The original Starman, Ted Knight, is kidnapped by some Third Reich beings. I can't say the word. They're nasty. You know what I mean? It's nasty with a Z. You know what I'm saying? And Hellboy pops up and they have to go after him. But by God, by the end of the first issue, Batman is called off because the Joker is back and Gotham needs him. So who's going to help save the day and save Ted Knight, the original Starman, while his son Jack floats down? And if you want to see Starman and Batman have a team up all on their own, you need to check out the Starman's book because it happens around in the 30s, issue 30s and stuff, right? But anyway, so this is just epic. This is just so well written and fantastic, and the artwork is on point. Um, Now, I'm one of those people. Actually, I don't know a lot of other people who feel the same way, but I'm really tired of seeing the nasties. You know what I mean? They're a trope by now, right? There hasn't been actual these kind of nasties since 1945, and all the ones that escaped and stuff, and they're probably dead by now, right? So yeah, it's just fantastic. I mean, it's a simple plot, a lot of great characterization. Everybody is actually in character. Some great scenes. Magnola freaking delivers. It's Hellboy. It's paranormal. It's Hellboy. His origins tied to World War II. That's why this is one of the few books that works. But I love how Jack at the end of the issue comes down like he's like, "I'm coming too. We got to save my dad." So part one is mainly Hellboy and Batman, and then we strong finish there, and we finally get to see Hellboy and Jack Knight Starman come in. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic. I mean, this is like, even though Mike Mignola did not write it, this is in the Hellboy world. Everything works. Oh my goodness. And I'm going to end up reading this again tonight, at least flipping through it, right? And for you guys, since we have a minute or so here left, here's a little bit of Hellboy Ghost. The Dark Horse characters. Can't really tell you a lot about Ghost with what was going on back then. God, that looks like a lot of Corman in there. Looks like somebody was tapping some Roger Corman there. I don't know if that was on purpose. But anyway, yeah, Ghost with her 6-shooters and stuff, doing whatever. So anyway, that's it, guys. So yeah, let me know what you liked. Let me know, should I do a separate video of the Hellboy crossovers and stuff, right? And make sure you have subscribed. Make sure you have liked the video. And thanks for everybody that's popped in here, man, and spent an hour with me tonight. That was fantastic. Maybe a little bit over an hour. And it was great to see everybody here. Paolo saw Ghost promoted occasionally in Wizard, and the comic lasted a while, but it never seemed to make a big impact. Yeah, I have an issue or two because Adam Hughes covers. You know what I mean? It was, like I said, it was that Bad Girl era. I have a whole Wizard special over here of the Bad Girls that came out in the 90s. You know what I mean? Like, it was fun. It's part of the 90s and stuff, but I don't really recall anybody really standing out, So anyway, so guys, Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, share the video, leave comments, even for you people in the future, right? Yeah, man, yeah. Make sure you read your comics, and thanks for popping in, and be excellent to each other. All right, Paolo, give me a yell. Gorvidal, if you pop in, give me a yell. We'll plan something there. I think that Invisible is maybe the way to go. There's so much packed in there, man. We'd be all over the place, man. All right, guys. Later. Read your comics.